Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.3, in which I'm attempting to make Kerbals a multiplanetary species. So here we have our base beginning to build on Duna, and actually quite literally. So in our previous episode, we had the big conundrum of the landing mishap and the ascent vehicle breaking up over the surface of Duna, but we have gotten our first crew out to the base site, and we are now getting things ready to go. So just kind of poking around all my different menus and things, and finally getting a chance to look through and get ready to deploy all of these lovely things, while you may notice the botany lab is unpacking. It is being deployed, and you know, it's over there in the background slowly growing in that creepy way that there it is. That things in ground construction do, where it just kind of expands in width and height over time. And I'm hoping that it's... I hope nothing bad happens to that material kit container that's right there. I guess we are going to see about that. Alright, oh, here it comes. Oh, boink! Rolling around looking like nothing so much as a can of sardines. It's just kind of pushing against it. Okay, it looks like it's now pushing in the opposite direction. It is kind of treating that as a fixed object in space, such that it's not kind of shoving it over. So, for whatever reason, that seems to be working out just fine, and it looks like that's not going to be a problem. That material kit container is going to be going away anyway, so I'm not terribly worried about that. Okay, so that is now deployed, so let's go ahead and get this added to the construction list. So, construct kit. No engineers in workshop. Okay, fine. I also don't have any machinery in here. Shoot. I thought this did have machinery. Okay. We're gonna have to go find some machinery now. Alright, nothing to fear. This is all part of the plan after all. We do have the candle crane, which is attached to some materials yet, and that's full of machinery as one of the kits that it has. So we can kind of see the massive dust storm that's rolling over the site as we try to build, but we don't have time to wait for the weather to clear up. We have a base to get built. Our Kerbals need shelter. They can only stay in the rover for so long, so we need to really get to the point of constructing their habitat and the base as soon as possible. And that involves a lot of kind of figuring out what the heck I had planned here as I was scattering all these supplies and vessels all over the Dunan surface. So we're back here using throttle-controlled avionics, which now that I've kind of figured out the way the control works and gotten this vessel built with it designed in mind, we can see that it's actually fairly easy to do these little... Not even, like, suborbital isn't even the right word. These little overland lander-style hops using engines, and without even very good gimbaling, or no gimbaling whatsoever, actually. The torch drives that we're using here have no gimbal at all. And we just have, what do you call it? The control moment gyroscopes that are going to keep us turned around and allow us to move in different directions. And I believe throttle-controlled avionics also will throttle the different engines to different degrees to pitch and yaw in different orientations. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what's happening here. But in any case, we are picking ourselves a nice nearby landing spot for us to put this thing down. And we have to remember that the landing legs are not up because those landing legs were buggy for me when I landed this vessel before. Oh, it's a little terrifying. Okay. All right. We're okay. The landing legs were a little bit buggy for me the last time I tried to use them. They slid on the landscape. Which is obviously not what you want out of landing legs. You want them to actually stay put. But that did not apparently stop me from trying, at least briefly. Actually, I think that was the TCA automatically putting down the landing legs, even though I did not want them to. But in any case, we are just now getting landed, and now I've just got to figure out how to sit nicely on a non-horizontal surface, because this whole area that I've built this base on is fairly sloped, which makes this a little bit tricky, but not that big of a deal. If I had actually put a little bit more time into designing this and, well, testing this properly, this would not be nearly as much of a problem. But yeah, we're just jumping Frandy Kermit out to just click on that little perform maintenance button, which is kind of all we needed to do with this EVA. Just, you know, jump for joy a little bit there, I guess. Extend the ladder so we can get back in. So now that we have brought that, looming in the background, that big chunk of material kits and machinery, we can perform maintenance, and you can see now that the inflatable workshop is full of machinery, which will allow it to function. We now have efficiency 300%, workforce 30 out of 30 SK, and looks like it's, we're going. We clicked construct kit, and we are now constructing, and it looks like it's going to take about 3 days. 3 days and 4 hours, if I'm reading that all correctly. Alright, so now it's time to do some cleanup around while we actually get started on the construction. So we are putting the brand new explosives, the correct one this time, the ones that are actually made by Rover Dude. You can tell because of the chunky tech models and bright colors. But yeah, we're going to use those to actually blow up some of these additional things. These additional landing bits. We can just disassemble like the decoupler rings and things like that, but these big bits here, they just contain, they're empty ore canisters mostly. They have a little bit of monopropellant and a little bit of power and a little probe core and some radionuclear isotopes, but they're not necessary, so we can just click on recycle. The game freezes up for a second, and then it just disappears, just vanishes into material kits. Very nice, and hopefully that actually decreases the load on my computer a little bit as we eliminate extra vessels and debris from the area. Huzzah! Because yeah, this place is kind of a lag fest, and it's only going to get worse, dramatically worse probably, as I actually start to perform conversions, when I actually have drills drilling up resources, and I have the assembly bays and refineries turning some resources into other resources. That's all going to be a very CPU intensive sort of set of operations, and Kerbal Space Program is already very CPU intensive. So alright, moving swiftly along, we are constructing and building, and we are also near to two different things. The Duna Central base, in addition to the Botany Lab, which we are working on now. The Botany Lab having been designed to be kind of our first constructed thing, our first base module that they can take shelter in because it's fairly complete. And we are also near the Caribou Supply Crawler, which I think might be necessary, maybe, question mark? I'm not 100% sure how necessary it's going to be, but I think it's something that we can get fairly early on. It is already deployed and fixed to the ground, ready for the actual construction. Alright, so let's kind of fast forward a little bit and see how well that works, because I know that on the Minmus base, where we have all the different conversions happening, that things practically just explode if I try to fast forward to any significant degree. And by explode, I of course mean it just slows to a crawl with lag. It's not actually destructive in any way. Bye, Botany Lab. Oh, no, wait, that was Duna Central. Wait. It just fixed in the air. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. That's a good place for that base, don't you guys think? Okay, so we are back after a reload, and this is why I quick save all the time. I'm going to be saving and loading probably quite a bit as I'm doing this, not to try to, you know, save scum for any particular event, but just to try to avoid exactly that happening, because there's lots of unknowns and bugs and things that I could bump into that would cause me trouble and would make me very sad. like having a base fixed way up in the air is one of those things. So, lesson learned, let's not fast forward while we are deploying things, or at least at the moment that we are finished with the deployment, I need to slow things back down. So, we can kind of time warp until it's very close, but then, no. Okay. Don't time warp at all. Got it. Understood. Alright, so for the third time, we are going through this with no time warping. I just let it sit in the background while I waited for these things to deploy, and there we go. It is fixed to the ground. Both the Duna Central Base and the Caribou Supply Crawler, both ready to go, both now added to our construction queue, so the Kerbals inside of our rover will work on building each one of those base bits or pieces of infrastructure in turn. And we're going to work first on the botany lab, I believe, and then we are going to move on to the Caribou Supply Crawler, because you never know when you need another bigger rover. And then we will go on to build Duna Central. Duna Central being a base facility that is designed to kind of act as a central hub. Alright, so I did some time warping to see if we couldn't get this finished. I got the little message saying that the construction was finished, but then we found out that there's not enough material kits. So, what the heck? Looks like it did definitely eat all of the material kits out of this, and we didn't get very far, so I'm a little concerned that it's only using the local material kits. That is, it's only using the material kits that are directly inside this vessel, rather than grabbing from anything local, which is what I was kind of hoping would happen. I don't have a good reason to believe that is what would happen, I suppose. I was just kind of hoping everything would work out, you know what I mean? Okay, so we're building again, so that's good. And it looks like if I leave this open, the local logistics panel will allow me to kind of transfer over materials as I build, and I can kind of time warp while I'm doing this. I guess we're going to see if this is going to throw things up into the air. Not enough material kits. Put on hold. Okay, well, start again. I guess if it goes too fast, it takes out enough material kits at once in one tick that it goes, oh, there's not enough material kits to do this, and then it stops. So I got to be careful about that, about how fast I fast forward. But that's making this take kind of forever. Alright, so we are just going to pick up and drive the Geo Rover, which is kind of the point of this thing. And like I mentioned in the last episode, I really wish that I could undeploy and redeploy the workshop every time I move, but I'm not certain it's not going to just throw away and then reconsume all those material kits and machinery. So, is what it is. But this plan may perhaps be something a little bit similar to one that I've used back when I was building the Minmus shipyards, where we are just going to throw a Kerbal Attachment System pipe from this rover, and go ahead and reach that one out and plug that on right there. Boom. And we're going to attach that directly to this big material kits container. Boom. Okay. Now I just need to get a little bit closer and link. Excellent. Bring this on over and a little closer. Link. Ta-da! Okay. I didn't even break the solar panel, even though I came fairly close. But yeah, that should give us the material kit storage that we need to actually, you know, produce enough, well, for us to work through those material kits over the course of a time warp. Because for this to work completely in the background, I believe what I would end up having to do is actually have enough material kits on hand in the vessel for it to complete the entire build in one go. So we need something like 34,000 material kits remaining, I do believe. So let's see what we can do. What can we, there we go. Let's move all that into the GeoRover. We have 54,000 now. That's fantastic. That's more than what we will end up needing. So let's save the game once again. And get to the construction window. Alright, so we are still constructing, things are still in progress. Now we can time warp it up and see how this plays out over time. So we can kind of look up here and see that we are using large amounts of material kits, and some maintenance comes due as we come out of there, and yeah, it looks pretty good so far. And it looks like did the dust storm stop finally? Goodness gracious. And the sun is rising. Oh my goodness, a dawn. Oh, never mind. There's the storm. But we could see the sun rise and then set over the Kerbal astronauts once again as they continue their construction. It looks like now the botany lab is actually complete. Huzzah! So we can actually play with the resources. And I never actually really need to deal with this because this kind of is not... It's less necessary when you can just transfer things over with local logistics. So, not that big a deal. So let's click the launch button. And we are now launching. Oh dear, what's gonna happen? Alright. Looks like it's coming loose. In a positive sort of way. Any minute now. We sit and we wait for the actual construction to complete. The final finishing touches are being placed on our base as we watch for the launching. And as the camera begins to slowly laggy pan over towards the constructed botany lab, we can see what we have wrought upon the surface. Yeah, so this is pretty much just exactly what we put together in the vehicle assembly building, which is perfect, exactly what we needed. And this has lots of habitation facilities. It has facilities for growing food, for recycling food into the agroponics process. It has a command center. It has logistics. It has a communications net, dish, all those sorts of things that we will need as the foundation of our base. So now let's go ahead and start adjusting our resources. We are going to steal all of the material kits out of this Duna Express probe, lander probe, because we were going to want to start cleaning up the boxes behind us, because each one of these bases that we've set down was set down alongside a material kit container. So we may need to move around a little bit to make sure that we can actually get to everything. However, it's in our best interest to kind of clean these up after building each one so that there are fewer vessels. But before we get to that, we have one more thing to build. Because this actually went pretty quickly, we are going to head and launch the Duna Supply Rover, Caribou Supply Rover, which we are going to be using as kind of exactly what the name is on the tin. This is going to be used to shuttle resources around as we are building our base. We should get in there and get the brakes on if we could. But yeah, this serves kind of two purposes. We've prioritized the building of this thing right now because this is going to be intended to visit the various base facilities and help me in actually getting things built and moving around material kits and moving around machinery and moving around all those other things that are important as we like disassemble spent spacecraft bits. I'm sure there's a better way to put that, but spent containers and so forth. It's better than, you know, running pipes out to each individual material kit container. So we'll figure out a way to make that work, but this is going to be an integral part of our construction work. In addition, this is something that we will be using. You kind of have to just have a rover, I think, to make rover-based logistics work. So, I mean, that makes sense, right? But if we have this nearby and it has all of this capacity for loading materials, we can use this to enable a type of logistics that will move all of our resources between bases without being close, without using the local logistics panel, that sort of thing. So it basically extends our scavenging range pretty darn far. Alright, so one of the reasons why we got this thing out, the rover, is to move around some specialized parts, which we will be needing for various types of construction. So, we are deploying now our little, what do you call it, our inflatable storage modules that will be hanging off of the side of this, hopefully not unbalancing this vessel too much, but that is where we are going to be putting a lot of our storage, and that is what is going to be using the local logistics, the local warehousing that is going to allow this to act as an intermediary between the different bases. And for now, like I said, this is going to let us grab some specialized parts which we need to finish up some construction. I'm trying to figure out if it's how possible it is for me to move stuff. Like, the range is what is confounding me at the moment, because I have all of these. I have a ton of resources like within a couple of kilometers of each other, but I'm going to have to figure out a good way to kind of organize them and bring them around to the places where they are needed without doing a whole bunch of weird manual work. But yeah, so we have this, we are emptying out this lander probe bit, which is a bunch of parts and a probe core and a vessel and all those other things. And we have grabbed everything that we need, and I have also shuffled over a bunch of the new and improved correct explosives over to the supply rover that I will use to actually move them to the various places so we can grab resources that we need to build the bases. So this is all happening while while the other engineers on the team are in construction over at the base, which gives me a pretty awesome level of flexibility as far as being able to kind of because that's going to take days, and like the addition of one more engineer is only gonna maybe affect it by a couple of hours, and I'm not even sure. There's like a new parallel processing thing, I think, that ground construction can do, where if you have multiple engineers in multiple workshops, they can all focus fire on one particular construction project. But I don't have multiple workshops, and I'm not that worried about it. We can have this kind of this person can kind of run around and do things and get stuff done in the meantime. But yeah, so that is pretty much where we are at. I'm finally caught up with my over a month-old footage with this. Hopefully it's been entertaining kind of watching this base get constructed. We've got a lot more to do when I start recording again, so please look forward to that. We've got all kinds of cool stuff coming. I'm finally going to get this base built and working out, and we're going to start working on getting the production chains working, making sure we have all the resources managed, and once we have everything kind of running at a basic level, that's when we are going to be bringing in the new colonists to help to colonize this brand new frontier. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.